You ever see something so clean, so precise, it almost doesn't feel real? Like, it shouldn't be that easy? Marco van Basten. This guy walked into a must-win game at Euro '88 against England and made it look like a Sunday kickabout. He dropped a hat trick so casual, so savage, it didn't just stun defenders. It silenced an entire stadium. And here's the kicker. He wasn't even supposed to be there. Injured most of the season. Barely match fit. Barely picked. Yet somehow, this man rewrote the script in 90 minutes. Stick around, because we're breaking down how Van Basten went from nearly missing the tournament to frighteningly dismantling England with 3 goals that still echo through football history. So here's the wild part. Marco van Basten almost didn't even go to Euro '88. I'm serious. The guy spent most of that season injured. An ankle issue from back in November had sidelined him during his very first year at AC Milan. He only played 11 games all season. That's it. Imagine this. You join one of the biggest clubs in the world. You barely step on the pitch. You're watching from the stands while your new team, Milan, goes on to win their first league title in 9 years. You're technically part of history, but you're not even in the photo. And now, you're being called up for your country, the Netherlands, for their first major international tournament in 8 years. The pressure is sky high, and everyone's asking, is Van Basten even fit enough? Can he deliver? To make it even harder, he's not the obvious first choice. His old Ajax teammate, John Bosman, was the guy everyone had their money on. Bosman had chemistry with the squad, was banging in goals, and even scored at Wembley a few months before the tournament in a draw that honestly flattered England. Oh, and just to pile it on, there was another Dutch striker in the mix, Wim Kieft, top scorer in the Eredivisie, helped PSV win the treble, including their first and only European Cup. So Van Basten. He was basically the mystery pick. The maybe. The question mark. The man tasked with making that decision? None other than Rinus Michels. Yeah, that Rinus Michels. The architect of total football. The guy still haunted by losing the World Cup final in '74. He's back. He's got a mission. And for Game 1, he leaves Van Basten on the bench. Bosman starts up front. But it doesn't work. The Dutch lose their opener to the Soviet Union. Now it's win or go home. And Michels, he pulls the trigger, changes the lineup, changes the system, and decides Van Basten gets his shot. What happens next? Man, you're not ready. All right, so let's talk about the chessboard. Because this game wasn't just big, it was everything for both teams. The Netherlands had just lost to the Soviet Union in their opening match. England? Same story. Stunned by Ireland. That meant this next game was pure knockout football, just with a group stage label. One more loss, and you're packing your bags. So both managers had some serious thinking to do. Rinus Michels, the Dutch mastermind, made 2 bold moves. First, he dropped John van 't Schip. No big shock there. But then he did something almost no one saw coming. He benched Bosman, the striker who was supposed to be their guy. Most people figured Van Basten would come in alongside Bosman, not instead of him. The expectation was that Gullit would drop deeper into midfield to make room. But nope, Michels kept Gullit high and brought in Erwin Koeman to fill the midfield gap. It was the kind of tactical tweak only a veteran like Michels would dare to make. Subtle, but sharp. The kind of move that looks crazy until it works. And over on the England side, Bobby Robson was also feeling the heat. With Terry Butcher out injured, his defense was already shaky. And Tony Adams, who filled in against Ireland, didn't exactly ooze confidence under pressure. So Robson made his own brave choices. He pulled Chris Waddle and Neil Webb from the lineup and brought in Trevor Steven and Glenn Hoddle. That right there? That was a gamble. He could have gone defensive, played it safe. But instead, he leaned in. He chose to fight skill with skill. Two legendary coaches, two desperate teams, two risky game plans, and one guy, Van Basten, sitting quietly in the middle of it all, about to burn the whole thing down. So the game kicks off at the Rheinstadion in Dusseldorf, and right away, you can feel something's brewing. The Dutch? They're sharper, slicker, more composed on the ball. They're moving it around like they've got magnets in their boots. Gullit's floating in that space between the lines, Koeman's stepping up from the back like a quarterback. But here's the thing. Even though the Netherlands look better on the ball, England are getting the chances. Like, real chances. In the opening minutes, there's this weird miscommunication at the back. Ronald Koeman and Van Breukelen get tangled up, and suddenly Gary Lineker pounces. He pokes a shot at a tight angle, and it cannons off the post. It's messy, it's dangerous, and it's a warning shot. Not long after, Glenn Hoddle, England's midfield artist, lines up a free kick from way out. He hits it so pure, it curves like a boomerang. Van Breukelen flies full stretch, but nope. Off the same post again. It's like the football gods are letting the Netherlands live on borrowed time. But here's where it gets interesting. While England are wasting chances, Van Basten's starting to cook. Not scoring yet, but the signs are there. The movement, the awareness, the positioning. There's one moment where he peels off his marker and darts into space, collects a pass, gets knocked, and has a decent shout for a penalty. Waved away by the ref. But it's a signal. He's testing the angles, probing the space. And then there's another one. Hoddle tries a cute little ball out from the back, but Gullit intercepts like a shark sensing blood. He immediately threads it into Van Basten, who makes a clever diagonal run, forcing England to scramble. Again, no goal, but he's sniffing around. This whole half? It's the dress rehearsal. Every touch, every little run, every moment Van Basten drops deep or peels wide. It's all setting the stage. The movement was there. The gaps were opening. England didn't know it yet, but the storm was already forming. And just when they thought they were surviving the first half, bang. 1 minute before halftime, the floodgates open. It's the 44th minute. England are holding on, just barely. They've hit the post twice. They're throwing bodies in the way. They're doing just enough to keep it 0-0. But then, one mistake. Frank Rijkaard steps up, snaps into a challenge on Lineker, wins the ball clean. He immediately releases Ruud Gullit on the break, and now it's danger. Gullit's gliding down the left, like he's floating. You can see him scanning, waiting, inviting pressure. England's Gary Stevens moves to close him down. Mark Wright starts drifting over too. Gullit doesn't panic. He just waits. And then, bang. Outside of the boot, he slices a pass through both defenders like a surgeon with a scalpel. Marco van Basten is already there. He's hanging at the edge of the box, slightly off balance, facing away from goal. It doesn't matter. He takes it with his left, kills it instantly. You can hear the touch. It's soft, like silk. And then, the twist. He spins 180 degrees, just enough to poke it forward with his right, dragging it across the face of goal. Now he's moving across Peter Shilton's line. And Shilton, in his 100th cap for England, can't get there in time. Tony Adams, beaten. Stevens, half a yard too slow. Van Basten, falling as he hits it. Doesn't matter. He watches the ball fly past Shilton into the back of the net. The stadium erupts, not in celebration, in shock. It was so fast, so clinical, and yet it looked effortless. The Dutch bench goes wild. The camera pans to Robson, frozen. That was it. That was the first crack. And for England, the first taste of something they couldn't stop. You'd think that goal, that surgical strike from Van Basten, would break England. But credit where it's due, they didn't crumble. In fact, they came out in the second half with something to prove. Just 8 minutes after the break, Brian Robson, the captain, the heartbeat of the team, finds space at the end of a well-worked move. Bang! He buries it. England are level, and for a few glorious minutes, it actually looks like they might be turning the game on its head. The midfield starts clicking. Glenn Hoddle? He's in his element now, spraying passes, dictating tempo, making the Dutch chase shadows for once. Mark Wright starts stepping out of the back line with confidence, breaking lines. The belief is back. Then there's this moment. Lineker rises for a header, connects beautifully. It beats Van Breukelen and crashes off the crossbar. But wait, the flag's up. Offside. Only, it wasn't. Replays show Lineker was onside. England were this close to going 2-1 up. Inches. And just like that, it all starts to unravel. Around the 68th minute, Trevor Steven, who'd actually been helping hold the midfield together, comes off, limping. Chris Waddle replaces him. And boom, the structure's gone. England's midfield suddenly looks off balance. The rhythm disappears. And the Dutch? They feel it instantly. They smell blood. You can almost see the shift. Gullit starts drifting between the lines again. Van Basten starts moving with even more intent. That equalizer? That little spark England had? It was just a flicker. And the fire's about to go out. England's riding a wave. But they don't realize it's already crashing. Midfield's disjointed. Waddle's come on, but the balance isn't right. One moment of poor positioning, and the Dutch are back in your face. This time, it's weirdly scrappy. The ball pinballs around just outside the England box. It's messy, awkward, nothing like the slick build-up you'd expect from the Netherlands. But then, somehow, it falls to Ruud Gullit. And that's a problem. He doesn't even need to take a touch. He just turns, cool as you like, and rolls it diagonally into space. And who's waiting? Of course, it's Van Basten. He's already peeled off Gary Stevens, who's left stranded again. The defensive line raises their arms. Offside? Nope. Flag stays down. Van Basten doesn't hesitate, not even for a second. Left foot. Low. Clinical. He drills it under Shilton, who's rushing out, but might as well not be there. The finish is so routine, so unfussy. It's chilling. There's no wild celebration, no chest thumping. Van Basten just turns and jogs away. Job done. It's the kind of goal that doesn't make you jump. It makes you stare. Because suddenly, it hits you. This isn't just a good striker having a good day. This is an assassin, a silent operator. And England? They've just lost control of the match. At this point, England are wobbling. The midfield's cracked, the defense is stretched, and Van Basten? He smells blood. The third goal is almost too easy. It starts with a corner. Erwin Koeman swings it in from the right. Simple delivery, nothing fancy. At the near post, Wim Kieft gets the slightest flick. Doesn't even look like it'll cause much damage. But the ball skips through the box, untouched, and drops perfectly at the back post. And there he is, Van Basten, unmarked, unbothered, unforgivable. The ball's bouncing awkwardly, but he doesn't panic. He lets it drop, meets it with his right foot, drives it into the turf, and it pops up and through Peter Shilton. It's almost comical. Like the ball just passes through the man. 3-1. Hat trick complete. Game over. Van Basten doesn't even celebrate like a man who's just destroyed England. He celebrates like a man who expected it. Cool, cold, clinical. And that's the scariest part. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a one-off. This was surgical football violence. From a striker who made world-class defenders look like cardboard cutouts. When the final whistle blew, it wasn't just the end of a game. It was the start of something. That hat trick? It didn't just knock England out. It sent a message across Europe. The Netherlands weren't just back. They were dangerous. And Marco van Basten? In 90 minutes, he went from, "Is he even fit enough to play?" to, "This guy might be the best striker on the planet." This was the game that unlocked everything. After that night in Dusseldorf, Van Basten scores again in the semi-final, against West Germany no less. And then, in the final, he hits that volley. The one every football fan has seen. The one that defies logic, physics, and everything in between. But none of it happens without this night. This was the turning point, the ignition. And what makes it all so haunting, so iconic, is how easy he made it look. 3 goals, each different, each cold-blooded. No tricks, no theatrics, just ruthless movement, perfect timing, and a finish every single time. In today's world of over-celebrations and hype, Van Basten's hat trick is a reminder of something rarer. Genuine greatness doesn't need noise. It speaks loud enough on its own. Marco van Basten's performance against England at Euro '88 wasn't just a hat trick. It was a statement. That cold, calculated destruction, from a man who almost didn't make the squad, set the tone for a tournament the Netherlands would go on to win. No wild skills, no viral tricks. Just timing, instinct, precision. The kind of performance that lives not just in highlight reels, but in football memory. So next time someone talks about great hat tricks, about big game moments, about clutch players, just say one name: Van Basten. England. Euro '88. That's it. That's the tweet. And hey, if you felt something watching this, if that goal breakdown gave you chills, or if you're just a fan of football that means something, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're into deep dives like this. And drop a comment. Where does Van Basten's hat trick rank on your all-time list? Until next time, keep watching football with your eyes open, because you never know when greatness will show up again. Just like that.